You're listening to the Decidedly podcast with Sanger Smith and Sean Smith. Our mission is to help business owners like you defeat bad decision making so you can improve your health, wealth, and relationships. We do this by digging deep into the stories and expertise of our guests and distilling their knowledge into actionable wisdom for you to carry into your life and business. If you're new to the show, welcome. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out on any of our weekly episodes. If you prefer to watch this week's episode, head on over to YouTube for the full video. Now, let's get into this week's episode and defeat bad decision making in your life and business.
When I wrote my book, A Life Rich with Significance, I had to think a lot about what does it mean to have a life rich with significance? What does it mean to have a life of purpose? What does it mean to have a life of meaning? And I had a lot of conversations with people who are in search of that life. They're in search of a significant life, a meaningful life, a purposeful life. They want their business to be significant. They want their business to be meaningful. They want their business to be purposeful. And in an ideal life, I think we would all want everything we do to have significance and meaning and purpose. Our business, our hobbies, the time we spend with our family, everything, Monday through Sunday, to be focused on something significant, something meaningful, something purposeful. And I think the reason that we all know that is because we've gone through a period of being focused on something self-serving, focused on something leisurely, focused on something that feels good. And we recognize, just like Solomon, that pursuit is unfulfilling, even if we're really successful at it, even if we get everything that we could have hoped to have gotten. If it's focused on a lower aim than it could have been, we're going to be dissatisfied. And so it leads a lot of people to ask, what does a life focused on meaning and focused on significance really look like? What does it mean to live a meaningful life as a business owner? And it leads me to be able to point out a lot of things I think business owners are doing wrong and what shifts we can make to have a meaningful life. So does having a meaningful life mean working every day until 10 p.m., working on weekends, missing your kid's dance recital and missing your son's soccer game? Does it mean that because you're making, solid income? Does it mean working hard? Is having a meaningful life the same as working hard? And the answer simply is no. When we talk about having a meaningful life, the families that really succeed with this, the individuals that really succeed with this, they might also work hard, but it means that the why behind why they're working hard, if they are missing their kid's soccer game, it's at least for something that could not possibly be more important than anything else that they could focus their time, energy, and resources on. And so when I ask people, what's important about your business? Usually the first answer that I get from everyone is not a meaningful answer. What's important about your business? Want to make money? Well, yeah, sure. If your business wasn't making money, it wouldn't be a very good business. You probably wouldn't be doing it. But what's important about making money? And this is where I start to see the difference between someone who's at least got their eyes on meaning and someone who's never thought of it. And someone who's never thought of it is going to look at me like that was a silly question. They're going to say, well, what do you mean what's important about making money? You got to have money. It's good to have money. I like the things that money provides me. Money is what bought me my house and my car and the clothes I'm wearing and my trip to Italy this summer. Money's good. No, I'm not saying any of those things are bad, but if the highest calling for your money is those things that you got from it, the things that you can put your hands on, I think that we're missing something. Someone who has focused in on meaning and purpose will give me an answer that's focused on their family, focused on legacy, focused on their community, focused on the intangible idea or ethos of their company that they want to permeate the neighborhood, the community, the city, the state, the country, the world outside of their company. So what they're serving is not their company. They're serving their family, their neighborhood, their community, their state, their country, their world. They're serving something bigger than themselves. And so if I could distill everything down to what does it mean to live a meaningful life, we have to find something above ourselves, more meaningful than ourselves, more important than ourselves to serve. And if we do that, we will necessarily have more meaning than a life focused on our own pursuits, leisure, and pleasure. And I think that's the biggest lie of our world today. That's the biggest lie of our culture today is that, that you got to find what makes you happy. You got to do what you want to do. You got to focus on the things that bring you joy. And in my experience, the people that do that, they aren't the happiest people. they aren't the people that are living a life that I want to emulate. I want to emulate the people who, like Christ, sacrificed, the people who gave something for others. We aren't Christ. We can't give everything. We can't give, if we give too much, maybe we won't be able to continue to give anymore. So of course we can't sacrifice endlessly for others, but sacrificing not at all and focus only on ourselves, focus primarily on what I'm getting out of this life and this business, that's a recipe for not only unhappiness, it's a recipe for a destruction. It's a recipe for no purpose, for no meaning, because what can sustain us when life's not going our way, when business is not going our way? Is it a selfish pursuit of my own joy, happiness, and pleasure? So what happens when the life that we're living is not providing that joy and happiness and pleasure? Well, man, my entire aim is falling apart. My entire purpose is gone. If our purpose is outside of ourselves, then when we don't have joy, when we don't have pleasure, when we don't have happiness, when it's not fun, we can still keep moving because that fun isn't what we were aiming at in the first place. We were maybe even willing to sacrifice fun, sacrifice short-term happiness, sacrifice pleasure in order to serve the family, the neighborhood, the community, the state, the idea, the power that's above ourselves. So I think that's where many business leaders get it wrong. Many business owners get it wrong, is they're working in a pursuit of themselves, whether it's their own fame, their own power, their own ego. And they find out later in life, hey, it was all for nothing. So I want to talk about the mistakes that I've made in leadership, and hopefully by listening to these mistakes, they can help you too. I've made plenty, so distilling it down to just a couple of mistakes is kind of a difficult challenge, but it should be, for everybody. I think one of the biggest things that I did early on in my career was I made the assumption that other people ought to be as dedicated to my business as me. So I remember I had hired somebody to kind of help me get together all a bunch of paperwork that we needed to send out to clients. And that was basically his first big project, was get all this paperwork done. We had to get 1,000 clients had to sign this thing, and we had to print it out, get the documents, mail it to them, et cetera. And I remember walking by his desk on a Friday, and I was like, it's 4:00. I look at it, and he's still got 900 out of the 1,000 pieces of paperwork that need to go. And I'm like, whoa. We're supposed to be done by now. I thought you were already done, and you're 10% of the way done. And I said, what do we need to do to get this done? He's like, well, I just don't have the time. And it couldn't compute to me because I was like, I didn't ever not have the time. I just did it. I would be up at the office at 3 a.m. if I had to be. And so I said to him, I go, okay, I'm now doing this. And if you would like to, actually, no, I'm sorry. I said, this is going to get done with my help or without my help. Like, you're going to get it done. But if you want my help, I will stay with you tonight as long as possible to get this done. And so we ordered a bunch of pizza, and me and a few other people that I had hired, we all stayed until maybe midnight on a Friday. And I thought I was doing a good thing. See, I'm willing to help, in the trenches with you. And I think what it might have had the opposite effect, where I showed my employees that I have this expectation of them that they're going to work that late when I was perfectly comfortable with it. But I think they probably felt like they had to, that I was saying it was like a trick, like a setup. If you don't take my help, don't come crying to me on Monday when you don't know how to get this done. And I don't regret the spirit of that, but I regret that it probably didn't have the impact that I wanted it to have. Second big mistake I made was a late night also. One night this was actually 2019, I think. And every night I was working so late, and I would get to the office, 8 o'clock or whatever. I'd work till about 7. I'd go to the gym till 8. I'd come back to the office, and I was there until midnight or later every night. So the only break I got was 1 hour to go work out. But other than that, I was living at the office. And one night I remember I'm kind of rubbing my eyes, eyelids are getting heavy. And all of a sudden I'm jolted out of my daze, and the phone's ringing, bing, 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 bing. Oh my gosh, what is going on? And I just reflexively answer it. I was like, hello, this is Sanger. And his client, his name was John. He was like, what are you doing? And I was like, hey, it's Sanger. How can I help you? And he was like, why are you answering the phone right now? And I didn't have the wherewithal to be like, what do you mean? Why am I answering you? Why are you calling? He just immediately hit me with the reality. He goes, dude, it's 5 a.m. Why are you open right now? I was hoping to leave a voicemail. And I kind of tongue in cheek was like, I'm always working for you, John, or whatever, take a minute off. And I thought would think that was funny. He did not. He really did not think that was funny. He was kind of upset. He was like, dude, whatever you're doing is not healthy. You should not be at the office at 5 a.m. And the reality is of course I was at the office at 5 a.m. because I hadn't left. I wasn't up and at them at 5 a.m, which still might've been bad enough. And he could tell, he's like, dude, I'm trusting you to manage my family's money and help navigate us. I can't have you just sacrificing your health like this. And it made me really think wow, I might have an unhealthy relationship with work. And I think a lot of business owners do, because they think, oh my gosh, my business is going to fail and collapse and implode, and I'm going to go broke and be homeless and be a failure and a disappointment, and I'm going to let all these people down if I don't slave away. And that's not true, but we kind of reveal it in our language and the way that we talk to each other. You notice that everybody is so proud of being busy. You ask people how work's going, they go, oh, I'm busy. I hate that. I don't want to be busy. I want to be productive. I want to be working on something important. I want to be getting a lot done, making a lot of strides. Busy? I'm just doing a lot? It's not a marker of success. It's certainly not a status symbol. Be excited about the work that you're doing. Be working on some important projects. Be making headway in your pursuit of purpose and meaning. But being busy, that's not necessarily good. I was super busy when I was answering the phone at 5 a.m. because I hadn't left, because I fell asleep at 3 a.m. at my office. I was busy. I wasn't really productive. and I wasn't pursuing purpose and meaning. And I can guarantee you by the time 8 o'clock rolled around on those days, I wasn't really very productive either. So I think we reveal this misalignment in the way that we talk. And most people who haven't found meaning and purpose and aren't aiming at something that's fulfilling will tell you like they're really happy about being busy. They're really proud of being busy. They feel like they're doing a good job because they're busy. And I had to check myself in that moment when I got woken up at 5 a.m. and said, this really can't happen again. And so I observed another business owner in my life who I respect, who does something completely different. So this was kind of by accident, but I wanted to go up to my jiu-jitsu gym on a Sunday. Now my gym is closed on a Sunday. You know, we have classes Monday through Saturday. Generally speaking, we don't have classes on Sunday. So I wanted to do some project like do a private workout with a friend and kind of film it for this video I was making. And so I go ask my coach, I say, hey, is it okay if I come in on Sunday? And he goes, yeah, of course. And I go, okay, well, I need a key. And he goes, well, go ask Ben or Bobby or somebody else. And I was like, oh, do you not like, why would I do that? I'm talking to you right now. And he goes, I don't have a key. And I said, huh? Your name's on the front. This is your business, your building. This is your company. How do you not have a key? He goes, I don't want to have a key. That's a responsibility that I don't want. And so I adopted that and I told a lot of my business owner friends at the time, I said, I don't have a key to my business anymore. I went and I took it off my car keychain. I didn't throw it away like he did, but I took it off so that when I went to work, I had no option but to show up after somebody else had already gone there. So I show up like at an appropriate time. And then if I left, I could certainly stay after we closed. But once I left, I couldn't get back in, which is what I was doing. I was leaving at 7, coming back at 8:30 and staying all night. I'm like, if I stay till 7, that's fine. But if I leave, I'm not coming back in, which is probably appropriate. And I think sometimes we got to like make that hard boundary for ourselves. We're not going to stick to it on our own. I wouldn't have stuck to it. I wouldn't have just said, okay, well, I'm going to try to work a little less. I wouldn't have done that. You know, it's like saying I'm going to eat fewer donuts. Nah, I'm just not going to buy donuts. Okay. I'm not going to let donuts into my house because once donuts are into my house, I eat all the donuts. Right. I'm not just going to have one and then throw the rest away. All right. There's all types of excuses. Oh, that's wasteful. Oh, they taste so good. Oh, I spent $10 on this. Oh, no. But starving kids in China would love to have donuts right now. No, I get the donuts and then I eat all the damn donuts because there's always an excuse, always something in the back of my mind. I had to get my key off my keychain because there's always an excuse to go back to work at 8:30 p.m. Oh, well, I got to prepare for that meeting tomorrow. I got this project. Oh, we got payroll coming up. I got a strategy session. I got a plan for it. I got to make that PowerPoint. I got to. It's not true. It's a lie that we tell ourselves when we're not rooted in our actual pursuit of purpose and meaning. And at that point in life, I wasn't as clear on what my highest aim was. So recentering on the aim doesn't work. When you don't have one, it doesn't work. You have to draw something hard and say, you know what, at least I've identified there's a bad habit. I'm going to stop this bad habit. So those are the two things. One is expecting my employees to be as motivated as me to work long hours and slave away when they're not. They're not getting the rewards that I'm getting. So I can't expect that they're going to be as motivated as I am. If they wanted to own a business and run a business, they would do that. And there's nothing wrong with not doing that. There's nothing wrong at all. I'm very thankful that there are people that don't want to run their own business because that means people can work for me. And if everyone wanted to run their own business, I'd be just like everyone else and I'd be alone. So we got to be thankful for those people. At the same time, we can't expect that they're going to do what we're willing to do unless you're going to compensate them like you're compensated and give them, 50% of the profits or whatever. The second is not creating healthy boundaries for my relationship with work. It's very possible to work too much. It's very possible to work too much. And it's not impressive. It's not healthy. It's not good. Nobody cares, by the way. Nobody genuinely cares. Some people might act impressed, but they don't really want to do that for themselves. You know, if you meet someone like, oh man, you're just always working and you're working till 3 a.m., like they're not giving you a compliment. And I had to realize that. So once I took a step back in business, the question is like, well, how do I build a team that's going to enhance my business's goals? Because I'm not just going to do all of the work all of the time. And so I intentionally said, how can I take myself, reduce my influence in my own company? If I can reduce my influence in my own company, then I will be forced to make a stronger team. And so one of the things I chose to do was to pursue something that at the time was very important to me, and that was run Ironman triathlons. The reason why that's important is you can't like halfway do it. You can't sort of train for an Ironman. It's hard. You know, it's 2.4 miles swimming, 112 miles biking, and then 26.2 miles running in order, no break, right? Like you're doing that all in one day. And I wanted to do 2 in a 3-week period. So that I figured was twice as hard, right, as just doing one. And it meant that I had to train basically 20 to 25 hours a week. Now, I don't just have a full-time job at this time. I own and run a business. So I'm, as you know, that's not 40 hours a week. It's not 50 hours a week. Sometimes it's not even 60 hours a week of work. Well, now where am I going to get this 20 to 25 extra hours a week? Well, it had to come from work. I had to work less. I couldn't work the same amount that I was working. I couldn't just leave for an hour and go to the gym like I was. I had to sometimes leave at 3:30 and be done for the day. And so there's three things that really helped. One is teaching the team how to live the values of our company. And one is get them very explicit. And it's not something I figured out on my own. It's just learning from business owners who have done this really well. And values doesn't mean freedom and hard work and excellence. Like that's too vague. You know, if your values are single words, chances are they could be different people are going to have a different definition for those words, right? So, and you know this, just go ask 5 different employees that you have, you know, what does freedom mean? What does hard work mean? What does excellence mean? What does integrity mean? Ask people what integrity means. You'll get different answers, surprisingly. You think you're listening to this, you're like, that's crazy. Integrity just is what it is. It's doing what you say you're going to do. No, it's not. To everyone, anyway. So if your values are vague, they will be misinterpreted by other people, which means also they may be misinterpreted by you in the future, because 5 years from now, you're going to be different than who you are today. You may misinterpret in the future. And if everybody has their own different definitions of these values, that means they necessarily cannot be a unifying guide for behavior. They can't tell a group of people what that group ought to be doing because they're different. Everybody's going to interpret it differently. And so have very specific phrases that are action oriented, meaning they have a verb in them. Okay. So if you want, I think one of the best companies is actually Simon Sinek's company. He has one. And the value is silver line it. That's the value, silver line it. Now you could distill that to optimism, right? You could just say optimism is our value. Number 1, it's vague. Number 2, it doesn't require action. Silver line it is telling you to do something, saying do this thing. They've created silver lining it is the verb, right? And so it's a lot more informative on behavior day to day. Hey, if I'm sitting around complaining about our Q3 results, I got to silver line it. And I know that Simon Sinek expects that of me. I know this company expects out of me. I know my coworkers expect that out of me. So creating a phrase deeper than one word, it's got a verb in it, and then you can define it and actually do define it, have a definition, and everyone knows it. And then once you do that, you have to say it every single day. A lot of times I see business owners, they come up with their values and they're very proud of themselves. They spend a few hours on it, maybe 3 hours, 4 hours. And then they get asked later, like, hey, have you done values, right? For your company? And they go, yeah, of course, duh. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, what are they? I had that happen just 6 months ago. I was talking to a friend of mine. How's business? Oh, it's great. We finally we redid our values. We redid our purpose. It's so much clearer. We know what we're doing. Everybody's motivated. It's like, cool. What'd you change them to? And he named one. He forgot what their purpose was, and he forgot the other 4 values. And this guy's the CEO of the company. Well, how is that guiding any action? It's not. The answer is it's not. You did an exercise so you could feel good about yourself, so you could pat yourself on the back, so you could say, we're working today. And then nothing happened and nothing changed. And you can't be surprised a year from now when you miss your business goals. You can't be surprised 3 years from now when you're not where you thought you would have been. So the first thing about getting a team that can allow you as a business owner to actually pursue a meaningful life is to have values that are meaningful, that align with your purpose, that are explicit, that are precise, that are action oriented, meaning they have a verb in them, and that you have a very clear definition for. And then tell them to your team every day and make them learn them. You can't just tell them to them. You got to make them tell them to you. And then the second thing is empowering my employees to make decisions. I struggled with this for a while, where I had to realize I wasn't empowering my team to make decisions. And it was something like I had asked someone to book a team party for us. And I don't even remember which employee this was at this point. I said, hey, we're all going to go to, have an offsite hangout. And she comes back and she's like, well, what food do you want? It's like, whatever food you want. She comes back again the next day. Well, we have this option or this option for food. And I got so frustrated. I was like, why are you coming to me, having me approve what we eat at this event? You can't mess it up. You really can't mess it up that badly, I promise. And I realized very quickly, a couple sentences in, I can't be mad at her. She obviously thinks she has to do this. I promise she probably doesn't want to come ask me if we'd rather have Chipotle or Cava, right? But she is, and it's probably because I've been, unbeknownst to me, micromanaging her since she's been here. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was like, hey, am I micromanaging you? Why do you feel like you have to come get this approved? Well, sometimes when I do things that you get upset with me afterwards, or sometimes you tell me that's not what you would have done. Oh, okay. I got to go the opposite way. I got to find people who are I got to find a way to empower people to make decisions for themselves. And it's not just about what our lunch menu is. It's about big things. Jeff Bezos is not top to bottom designing the marketing strategy of Amazon. He can't possibly. So sometimes they're really big things. But my business coach explained it to me this way. He said, you have different levels of decisions. If you think about your business as a tree, like a big oak tree, you have decisions that can affect different elements of the tree. So you have leaves, you have branches, or maybe you have like the limbs, and then you have the branches, and then you have the trunk, and you have the root, right? So if you think about the leaf, there's no way you can kill the tree by messing with a leaf. You could pull a leaf off, throw it down, and the tree's still there. You could cut a limb off or a branch even, and that's not going to kill the tree. It could, if you do enough of them, make the tree not as pretty, not have as much shade, not be as big and tall and beautiful, but you can't kill the tree. The trunk, you could kill the tree, but you might not. Like, it's going to have an impact, but it's definitely bigger than a branch. And then you have the root. The root is like critical, right? You mess with the root, you could definitely kill the tree. So as a business owner, I don't want to hire someone in week one to have them making root decisions. But if they're making leaf decisions, that's certainly fine. And if they build their way up to a branch decision, that's probably going to be good. And ultimately, I want to hire someone who one day can grow into making a trunk decision, or maybe even a root decision one day. You know, if I make them a partner in my company, give them some equity, and they're equally in it with me, maybe they're making some root decisions one day. But I can't make all the root, trunk, branch, and leaf decisions for this company every day. And that's what I think fatigues a lot of business owners, is they end up making leaf decisions. So am I making leaf decisions? If I am, how do I empower my team to make leaf decisions? And what I have to tell them, especially if these are people that have been micromanaged by me or someone else in the past, they're not going to immediately make a leaf decision just because I tell them to. I have to remind them, like, you can't possibly mess this up, and I can't be mad at you for doing this incorrectly because I'm giving you this authority. Like, a lot of times they'll be resistant, like, oh, well, I'm just afraid that you're going to be upset. I'm afraid that it's not going to go well. First of all, you can't kill this company with a bad leaf decision. You can't. It's not possible, right? And I've only given you decisions that you can't kill the company doing. And then two is, if you do, let's say you accidentally make a bad branch decision, and now, you know, we made a big mistake. In a way, that's good. Hey, I now have invested some money and pain in you learning a lesson. What am I going to do? Kick you out? I'm not going to kick you out. You just learned. I just spent a lot of money for you to learn to not cut that branch off. The last thing I want to do is just waste my money and have you leave my company. No, I want you to stay, because now I know I have someone who's working for me who knows to not do that. It's good. I don't want to hire someone else new and then they got to make the same mistake and then I got to pay the money again. No. I paid the money. Oh no, it cost me $5,000. Oh no, you made a $10,000 mistake. Oh no. Good. Ooh, I'm thrilled, because now I know I have someone in this role who's not going to do that again. That's great. That's wonderful. That's worth the money. If I could just pay that as a Christmas bonus and say, hey, if I pay you this Christmas bonus, will you, solemnly swear to never cut the branch off? Then I would do that, but that's not possible. Sometimes we got to just let our employees screw it up. But I got to let them know I'm going to be happy if you screw it up, if anything. And then the third thing in building a team is feedback. I think a lot of people they really mess up with feedback by doing three things, one of three things, or all three. One is they just don't ever give feedback, right? Tension in relationship comes from often unmet expectations. And my priest said, unmet expectations are often unspoken expectations. Now that's true in a marriage. That's true in a working relationship. Unspoken expectations are going to lead to unmet expectations, and unmet expectations will cause tension and disappointment and frustration and tension. I think I said tension twice, but it's very important. So believe it. So feedback is a way that we express our expectations, or at least get clarity on those expectations. So saying the feedback. And then 2 is we make the mistake of framing the feedback as a request for behavior change, when not all feedback ought to be a request for behavior change. The 3rd is we get defensive, or we don't receive the feedback well. So 1 is most companies don't give feedback. 2 is we give feedback poorly. And 3 is we receive feedback poorly. So I remember I had was dating a woman a long time ago, and we only maybe got 3 dates in, and you'll see why when I tell you what happened. So on our 3rd date, okay, we were going to go to a high school football game. Now, you're like, Sanger, this must have been in high school. We don't want to hear a high school dating story. No, it actually wasn't. I was an adult. Texas high school football playoffs, very, very worth going to, very important. So we're going to the Texas high school football game, and I call her up, like, would you have any interest in going to this Texas high school football game? Oh yeah, that sounds like so fun. It's the playoffs. It's a big game. That'll be really fun to go to. Cool. Well, I'll pick you up at 7. And I think we're good. I've got plans. 3rd date, going to be fun. She's willing to go to a high school football game. It's wonderful. And I go pick her up. She's upset. Just like, hey, like, why didn't you give me more of a plan? I was like, what? Because I don't know what to wear to this thing. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just wearing jeans. Well, I dressed up nicer. I wish you would have told me that you were wearing jeans because I'm dressed nicer. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Well, I mean, are we going to eat? You didn't even tell me if we're going to eat. Well, I mean, I was planning on, what were you planning? Well, I don't know. I was planning on talking about it when I picked you up right now, which is what we're doing. And we had a long conversation about this where she is saying, okay, listen, like, in the future, you've got to give me more details on this plan. You got to have more of a plan. And I tried my best to receive that well. I said, okay, I get it. You have a need for more information than I do. It's like, yeah, I do. I want a lot more information. I was like, now see, the thing is, I'm comfortable with less information. So I hope you know that me not giving you more information isn't because I didn't care about the date or I don't care about you. I didn't know that you wanted more information. He goes, okay, well, in the future, just give me more information. I said, that's good. I'll always do that if you ask me. Yeah, if you ask me, I'll make the plan more detailed. She goes, well, why do I need to ask you? I'm telling you right now. Can't you just give me more details in the future? And I had to think, because this is a feedback mistake. A lot of times, and maybe the 4th feedback mistake, is we don't get defensive because we recognize being defensive is bad, but instead we accept a request for behavior change that we can't commit to. Right? And so what happens if I accept a request for behavior change that I can't commit to is I've essentially told this other person, I don't care about your feelings. And on top of me not caring about your feelings, I don't honor my word. Because I said I would stop doing this thing. I said I would start doing this thing. And then I didn't. That means I don't honor my word and I don't care about your feelings. So I had to stop and go, I don't know if I can commit to that. Because it's not something that I'm going to naturally remember. It's not something that I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to ever give you enough information unless you're talking with me about the amount of information that you want, right? If we're not talking in the moment, I don't think that me guessing what the right amount of information that you need is going to work. And she was unwilling to do that. She saw it as me not caring about her feelings. Like, well, I don't think that we're going to see eye to eye on this. And so in a work setting, one, we've got to give feedback. We can't just keep things inside. 2, when we get feedback, we can't be defensive. We can't say, well, I tried to give you enough details. Well, this is why I didn't make a decision about dinner. This is why I didn't tell you what we were wearing. I can't say that. I got to go, I see how you're feeling. It's not a request for behavior change on me. And I'm not assuming your intentions. The 3rd is I got to receive it well, meaning I don't have to agree with what they're telling me. I just have to receive it. And then the fourth is I can't commit to doing something that I'm not going to do, or that I can't commit to, right? So I hope I'm breaking that down in a way that's helpful. But in our team, we give feedback every week. We have a specific designated time to give feedback every week. And that's how those conversations have to go. Is the feedback isn't, I want you, Sanger, to do this thing differently than how you've been doing. The feedback is, hey, Sanger, I think you might not be aware of this. I think you might not know that this is how that could be perceived. Hey, I want to let you know there's this thing that I feel this is how I feel. So, for example, this was actually a really good example. I was on a board for a nonprofit. A friend of mine was the president, and I was just, one of the chair positions. We would have these meetings every month. And she called me after one of the meetings and she goes, hey, I want to let you know about something that I think you probably don't notice that you do. I was like, oh, thanks. What is it? She goes, you have a tendency to lean back in your chair and get on your phone. And it kind of makes a bigger scene of you being not focused on the meeting. And I don't know if you know that you do that. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even notice that I leaned back in the chair. I mean, now that you say it, I notice I accept that I do that, but I never thought about how that would look to other people as if I don't care, or I'm uninterested, or I'm not focused. And so I stopped doing it. And she did such a good job of sharing that feedback, because here's what she did not do. She did not say, hey, you need to stop that. Hey, it's rude of you to not care about what's going on in this meeting, be so unfocused. She didn't do that. She didn't assume my intention. She didn't say, hey, you need to be better, or you're only doing this because you don't care, or this and that. She just said generally, hey, you might not notice this. I want to make you aware of something. I want to help you see this from a different angle. And I received it partly because she delivered it so well. I received it well by saying, oh, thanks for letting me know. I didn't say, I'll never do that again. I happened to not do it again because it was very helpful feedback, and it was making aware of something I was doing that had an outcome that I didn't want, and gave off a message that I didn't want to give. And so I stopped doing it. But I didn't say, oh, I'll never do that again. Well, I don't know. Currently, I'm doing something unconsciously. So the likelihood that I'm going to consciously avoid it perfectly is low. But I can say, thank you for letting me know. And then we'll see. We'll see if I do better at it. So I think if we could get better at feedback, a lot of internal problems in our companies would be a lot better off. Hope this is helpful, guys. I'm kind of riffing. My biggest tip for business owners today would be create a culture of feedback. Encourage your team to give feedback. Receive the feedback well. And don't assume, when you give feedback, don't assume someone's intentions. Don't try to trick them into realizing it. Don't tiptoe around and beat around the bush. Just tell them what's going on. And when you receive it, all you've got to do is accept it. Don't make an excuse for it. Don't rationalize it. Don't be defensive. Just say, thank you for sharing that with me. You can discard it later if you want. And don't commit to doing something that you can't commit to or don't want to commit to. And if you do that, your feedback is going to be better, and your team is going to be more able to focus on the significance that you're aiming at as a company. So that's my big tip. I hope today was valuable for you. I'm Sanger Smith, and this is Decidedly.
You just made a great decision to listen to this episode of Decidedly. Make another great decision by subscribing to the show and leaving us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. We appreciate the support. It helps business owners like you find our community and defeat bad decision-making in their own lives. For more decision-making insights, check us out at decidedlypodcast.com, on Instagram at decidedlypodcast, or grab a copy of Sanger and Sean's books from the links in the show notes. Finally, we'd like to thank Shelby Peterson of Transcend Media for editing and post-production of the show. Thanks for listening. I'm Morgan, your producer, and this is Decidedly.